He said the words, but in totally different context. I mean, this is appalling. I worked for the BBC as a radio reporter for 10 years. I was editing tape day in, day out. I think I can say with some authority, this is not an example of clumsy editing. This looks like a deliberate attempt to deceive. And when you combine that really very shocking edit, as you say, of two different clips that were an hour apart, taken completely out of context, and you combine that, as Panorama did, with sort of slightly edgy music, when you mix it with a whole, in the context of a program that's trying to basically make Donald Trump out to be something of a monster, I think it's completely inexcusable. And as someone that did used to work for the BBC and was very, very proud to work for that organisation, whenever you travelled abroad, you'd say you were from the BBC, and it was like a magic word that unlocked doors, and people would then be very willing to speak to you because they had huge respect for this global organisation. And to see it now sunk so low is actually really very upsetting.
Yeah. But Suzanne, you're talking there about BBC standards, and I used to work for them, and you're absolutely right about that passport around the world. You'd go to South America or Russia or whatever it is, and just doors would open for you when you said you were from the BBC. But here, this is a basic thing we all learn at journalism college and whatever it is. This is just basically untrue. It's fabrication.
And the thing is as well, Suzanne, I think speaking as journalists, what would happen there is if you were doing cuts of a speech, you'd have a white flash, wouldn't you? If you were doing it in print, you'd have ellipses just to reference the fact that there's obviously a gap and a time delay between those two quotes. And that hasn't happened in this case.
No, it was absolutely right. I mean, I think technology has moved on, since the days when I was working at the BBC, and you have more kind of information in that regard. That is true. But I just don't understand really how this got through editorial. It's a program like this. And let's not forget, this was broadcast a week before the US election in October last year. So even though it's not a national election, a BBC, a British election, this is potentially arguably interfering in a foreign election. Now, the BBC prides itself on upholding democracy. It prides itself on upholding news values. I think the thing that really sticks in the craw here for me is the BBC is just so, on the face of it, opposed to so-called fake news. It talks constantly, everything's referred to BBC Verify. BBC Verify, we are the authentic, pinnacle arbiters of the truth, and we're going to tell you what's right and what's wrong. They have their disinformation correspondent, Mariana Spring, who's still in post despite the fact it was shown that she embellished her CV to get the job. The BBC puts itself on this moral pedestal, and here it has completely not just fallen off it, it's plunged and it's almost gone through the floor.
But Suzanne, you say how did it get through editorial? I think it got through because it looks so good. It sounds so good. It sounds so natural.
You wouldn't know,
why would you question it?
I think it's also because, and I'm sorry to say it, but I have some former colleagues I worked with, and I can see just today that they are subsumed by this kind of left-wing agenda. They just don't see things in an objective way, and it's not just incidents like this when the BBC has a kind of anti-Trump agenda, so thinks that everybody else shares their view. It's a kind of like corporate groupthink, really. It's in other things too, and let's not forget this one incident that we're talking about today is part of a 19-page dossier that's been written. And more is clearly going to come out about this. But one of the other things, for example, that dossier talks about is BBC's not tackling certain issues. So in a sense, licensed payers are also paying not to hear things about the transgender debate, for example. That's one example given in the dossier. It's very pro the trans lobby. There's not so much talk on the BBC about the other approach, about the anti-approach. It was the same when I moved into politics and was fighting for the EU referendum campaign in 2016. The pro-Brexit voice, I was usually only one on a panel of maybe 3, 4, 5 people who was actually pro-Brexit. So as I say, it's this groupthink mentality. It's a left-wing pro-Islam, anti-Christian groupthink at the BBC that's going to bring it down if it doesn't do something about it.
Suzanne, I want you to hear and listen to what the BBC have said. Maybe you'd like to comment after this. The BBC, what did the BBC spokesperson say?
While we don't comment on leaked documents, when the BBC receives feedback, it takes it seriously and considers it carefully. Michael Prescott is a former advisor to a board committee where differing views and opinions on our coverage were routinely discussed and debated.
Well, Suzanne, that really says nothing to me.
Well, what it says to me is, it's actually quite laughable. We don't comment on leaked documents. That's the whole basis of some of the BBC journalism. Leaked documents are gold dust to a journalist. It's what they want to talk about. I'm sorry, that's just laughable. Laughable.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cybercriminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Trump derangement syndrome is alive and well. And who would think it was actually alive and well and still growing in our national broadcaster, that of the BBC? And do you know what else about this that really angers me? It just feeds into the narrative of him saying it's fake news, when obviously that was a trigger for people when Trump came in and said that. And there was an element. But this is fake news.
This is really dangerous. It's not funny, because we live in a world now of AI, of online speculation. You need trusted news sources where, look, if I go there, I know that this will be accurate. The fact that it hasn't been, they need to make a big deal out of this. Someone needs to be fired for it. They need to set out a goal for how this will never happen again. I understand editing mistakes happen, slip of the tongues happen. We all work in broadcast, we all know. But something this big, where you made it seem like he said something he didn't, this is something families fall out over. People have debates around the kitchen table about what Donald Trump said or not. If you then go to a trusted source...
Friendships were ended over this as well.
Yeah, so it's just dangerous is what it is.
Do you think the Director General may need to go over this, Claire?
I don't know if Tim Davie has to go. Well, he's presiding over the BBC.
He seems to be a good man to me. I often think it's wrong that the people at the top take responsibility for the people at the bottom, but somebody needs to go.
Someone does need to go, and this is an independent report that was leaked, right? So there's no gripe in any way, shape or form, but this is really troubling.
OK. Claire, come back and trouble us again.
I will.
Lewis,